Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Thursday night live stream. What a great day in the markets. We're going to take a look at how XRP really won their case, even though it was dismissed against the SEC. We're going to take a look at a new project or the new outcome for the Trump administration as they are going to accept crypto and alternative assets into 401ks. And then also, we're going to take a look at the new Trump appointee for the Federal Reserve Board. I got to tell you, this guy is a winner for us. So first, I want to say congratulations. A big, heartfelt congratulations to the XRP army out there dealing with this nonsense that was Gary Gensler and the SEC forever in a frivolous lawsuit, essentially Operation Choke Point 2.0, as they went against Ripple Labs and, of course, their flagship project or product, XRP. And it was a long time coming. And I'm not a big XRP holder. I'm just not. And it has nothing to really do with do I own this or do you own that? It's just reaching out the hand and saying, hey, congratulations to you guys for sticking around, because I have to tell you, Ripple Labs and XRP Army, they really took it on the chin for our entire industry. And if it wasn't for them sticking up to the bullies, we've been in a much worse position. There's only one way to deal with bullies. That's you have to hit them in the mouth. And if it wasn't for that, I think we'd be in a much worse place. So I want to say congratulations. Here's what we have. Here's the filing. And it states, it looks like the United States Court of Appeals and of course, the plaintiff, United States SEC, or the Securities and Exchange Commission versus Ripple Labs, the defendant, and Brad Garlinghouse and Christian Larson. And it states here, a joint stipulation of dismissal. Now, before, I thought that this was going to be dismissed a long time ago. Took a long time. There's a lot of back and forth. And finally, it came through. So what does that mean for the markets? We'll get to that in a second. But I was just interested to see what Brad said. And funny enough, he didn't say squat. The only thing he said, and I have to commend him actually for this one, because he's like, hey, I'm not going to, let's see, this is 12 hours ago, 23rd of July, blue chip. No, hasn't talked about it. He just said this, no such thing as the August doldrums at Ripple. Very excited to share that we're acquiring Rail Financial. Wow. Ripple and Rail together will be the go-to provider of stablecoin payments infrastructure for global financial institutions around the world. We'll see. So, I mean, Brad's just not, he's not really to say too much. And of course, Stuart Alderati, who is the chief legal officer at Ripple, says very poignantly, following the commission's vote today, the SEC and Ripple formally filed directly with the Second Circuit to dismiss their appeals. That's the end. And now back to business. And that's how you do it. When you get into the end zone, act like you've been there. And they're not making this a big deal like we knew it was going to happen the whole time. And that is what I like to see. So again, congratulations to XRP Army. What did that do for our markets today? Not a bad day. And we're almost back up to $4 trillion market cap. I think we tumbled down to like 3.7 at some point. So, a couple $100 billion, not a big deal. But Bitcoin hit over 118K over the last 24 hours. Everything's up. Everything's up. Congratulations. We're doing great. Bitcoin's up 2.2. Ethereum, 6.3. And XRP. If I was a smart person, which I am not, as soon as I heard about this, and I heard about this immediately, I should have just dumped a bunch of money into XRP and then rode it up 10% or 12% or whatever else. And then, like Larson, probably just dumping on everybody. But I didn't do that. But, here we are, 10% up for 24 hours. And who knows how high it'll go. Let's see, BNB. I think everything's up across the board. I don't think there's any laggards here. Wow, Stellar, the big winner. Wow, Stellar's in the top 15 now. Almost 13%. Hyperliquid, SWE. Hey, now we're talking. This is my bag. So you can tell when I own something because I'm like, oh, this looks good. That's just how it is. Chainlink, Bitcoin Cash, I guess. Hedera, and across the board. So everything's looking pretty good. Fantastic. What are the ETFs showing us? What are the institutions, the big money players doing? Well, for the Bitcoin ETF, it looks like they're back to buying. BlackRock, the last, we don't have anything in it for 7th of August. But yesterday, they actually acquired more Bitcoin, 41 million. But the 5th, 4th, and 1st, there was a major outflow for BlackRock. Also Fidelity. Is that Fidelity? Yeah, Fidelity it is. And you have to understand that these investment advisors that work for Fidelity, BlackRock, ARK, Invesco, Franklin Templeton, it's not like they're individual people are selling their ETFs. I mean, there is some, but mostly it's their investment advisors balancing the portfolio or telling their customers like, hey, we think you should actually sell this. That's why there's such a massive sell-off. And someone had to remind me about that. It made a lot of sense. How's Ethereum doing? Well, besides the 4th of August, big sell-off, last couple of days, and even today, it's looking really good. BlackRock, gosh, over 120 million in the last 2 days. I'm sure they bought some more. They told their clients to do the same things. And then Franklin Templeton, ARK, and Fidelity, and some other ones. Oh my God, even Grayscale bought something? Amazing. So yeah, 114 million for the Ethereum ETF. Things are looking pretty good. And we talked about this yesterday, about Ethereum in itself and why I feel like it's going to be a big winner. I know some people disagreed with me and said it's slow and sluggish and there's better chains out there. And you know what? You're right. There are. They are faster. They have faster TPS, faster finality, faster. But guess what? Just like Tom Lee said here, and I don't think that Tom Lee would sit on the board or be the CEO of a company and say, you know what, I'm going to be the CEO of Fartcoin. I think, he picked BitMine because he knew that Ethereum was a reasonably good project. And he says right here, Ethereum's had zero downtime. This is what matters to Wall Street. I think the street has already decided Ethereum is the chain they're going to build on. We'll see, but so far it makes a lot of sense in that regards. But if you're talking about zero downtime, I mean, there's other chains, and I'll make this crystal clear because someone got me confused yesterday. Cardano has never been down, correct? Okay, then. Maybe that's something to look into. And maybe other chains that are faster, which I own, like say Solana and Sui and Hyperliquid and Avalanche. Maybe it's something else they could look into. I don't care what they do. Just win one of them. That's really all it comes down to. I'll support anybody, as long as it's a good product. And that's what we see. And then yesterday, we made the comparison about, getting into Ethereum or getting into the treasury. And the classic case we'd use was MicroStrategy and how well it's taken off with adding, of course, Bitcoin to its balance sheet. And then we also talked about Tom Lee's BitMine Emergent Technologies, which did the same thing. And we talked about this yesterday. It was $38.55 per stock for yesterday. And today, hey, $41.28. So if you would have gotten this stock yesterday, I mean, you're doing pretty good, 7%. I mean, not as good as XRP, but still 7% for a stock is pretty good. I think BitMine could be a real winner, but that's anybody's guess, not financial advice. And of course, I bought some. And that's where we're at for that one. And then lastly, before we get off on the Ethereum kick, there was a great website that was shared with me yesterday. And I want you to look at it. I don't want to inform you. I want you to do your own research. I link this in the description. It's called RWA, or realworldassets.xyz. It's free to use. It's fantastic. And I want you just to take a look at who is using and which chains are being used for a host of different products, such as stablecoins. And we can see the market cap grouped by the network, that Ethereum is the lion's share winner. Is that 140 billion? 140 billion if I remember. Wow, a lot of money. And then you got Tron, 80 billion. Not as much, but doing pretty good. And then you got Solana, and then you got Arbitrum, which of course is the one that Robinhood picked, and some other ones, Binance Smart Chain, and so on. And that's just for stable coins. How about treasuries? Well, treasuries, Ethereum, lion's share winner. Stellar, maybe that's why it's doing so well. Solana, I don't know what option. Arbitrum, Avalanche. The usual suspects, global bonds. Where'd it go? Here it goes. Spiker EU T-bills money. Okay. Backard ultrasound bone. Here we go. Networks, and you can see right here, Arbitrum, Polygon, Ethereum, Avalanche. Again, same suspects. What do we got here? Same thing. Commodities. This is interesting. Look at that. Commodities are dominated by Ethereum. Now it's only 1.8 billion. There's other ones over here, Binance Smart Chain and XDC, but still. Institutional funds, what do we got? Again, Ethereum, ZK Sync, Solana, off-chain stuff, whatever, Avalanche, blah, 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 and stocks. And this was interesting. I didn't know this. Because when I think of stocks, the digitalization of stocks and real-world assets, I was automatically thinking of course, Robinhood and Arbitrum and Solana, because they just recently have done that. But look at this. This is things I don't know. Algorand. Who'd have thunk it? This would be the Mooch's top pick. Algorand, 263 million. Again, not that much, but still. XRP, Solana, at a paltry 43 million, but still not bad. And then across the board. Anyhow, I'd like you to look at this website. I'd like you to absorb it. I'd like you to make your own opinions, do your own research. Links in the description, totally free. Then you can get your base case for where you want to invest into. Again, I'm not a financial advisor, definitely not your dad, so get to it. And then lastly, I've been trying to wrap my head about why Ethereum gets picked. And I think it's stuff like this with Arbitrum chain. And I have a great story to tell you, which I will not tell you here because I have a non-disclosure agreement, NDA, on a former project that I worked on. And we were looking at Arbitrum chain to actually launch our token. And it was pretty good because like Arbitrum, it's a layer 2 solution built on Ethereum. Ethereum then is the settlement layer. What's good about Arbitrum, I think why people are picking this, and banks and potentially banks and different fintechs are going to start using this, is because they can control it. Because Arbitrum chain is not just Arbitrum. You have these different products as the rollup, AnyTrust, Orbit, and Stylus. And this is the one, as far as Orbit, you can essentially create your own token as a layer 2 or layer 3. And they have these really interesting use cases, like, I guess, Ape Chain, Huddle, Pirate Nation, whatever this is. I think they should do probably a case study on Robinhood. That would be the biggest one they could do. But it just made a lot of sense because these corporations, entities, they don't want to give up too much power. Of course, they want the transparency and the ability to show everything on the blockchain, obviously, right? But they want to have the control. And with this control, with Arbitrum and them creating it on there, layer 2, layer 3, they can increase the TPS, increase or decrease the finality, and then they can actually have it to where Ethereum is just a settlement layer because it's slow and clunky, and I get it. And they can do a lot of things. I think that's why Arbitrum is going to potentially do well. Anyhow, that was just my little rant there. Let me know what you think about that in the comments section. And before we get on to Trump's pick for the Federal Reserve Board, which I guess he just did it today, and that guy's really good for us. I just want to give a shout out to Kraken. Now, they don't pay me a dime, just so you know, don't freak out. But I do have an affiliate link, and if you want to sign up, it's $25. I get $25, you get $25, everybody's a winner. You don't need to use it, but you don't get $25, just saying. Kraken today, I had my mind blown because I had an issue with my bank. There was an integration issue with Plaid. And I'm like, damn it, now I'm going to have to go through the chat bots and the endless emails back and forth because nobody's there. But when I went into the app and I clicked, let me show you. When you go on the app and you click on your name, and then you click on support, there's a button that'll say, would you like to talk to somebody? And I was like, BS. I clicked the button, and within 10 seconds, I was talking to a real person. I couldn't believe it. Honestly, I couldn't believe it. So I called them, waited 10 seconds. And like I said here, besides at iTrust Capital, I've never talked to a live person ever in any exchange except for iTrust Capital and Kraken. And it was pretty good. And we got it resolved within like, I don't know, 8 minutes, 10 minutes, something like that. So again, one more reason to take a look at Kraken. And if you just have one exchange, good luck during that on the bull run. Have fun. Moving on. Oh, yeah. If you'd like to watch why I have chosen Kraken and stopped using Coinbase and all others, there's a video in the description. Crypto Critical number 8, why Kraken? Watch that video, explains a lot. Now let's get to Trump. Half of the country's favorite person, and the other half's most vile, evil person of all time. But this is what it is. Donald Trump states today on Truth Social, it's my great honor to announce that I have chosen Dr. Stephen Moran, current chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors, to serve in the just vacated seat on the Federal Reserve Board until January 31st, 2026. In the meantime, we'll continue to search for a permanent replacement. Stephen has a PhD in economics from Harvard, served with distinction. My first administration has been with me from the beginning of my second term. So if this guy's probably going to do what Trump wants him to do. And his expertise in the world of economics is unparalleled. He will do an outstanding job. Congratulations, Stephen. And congratulations to this guy. Not easy to be nominated and put into the reserve board. And the first thing I thought of was, who the heck resigned? This lady resigned. I had forgotten about this. Federal Governor Kugler is resigned. This was on August 1st. Man, things move fast, right? And the next question I asked, why did she resign? Did somebody fire her? Well, you can't fire him. But she just wanted to leave. And in a letter addressed to Trump, Kugler 55 did not state a reason for her decision to leave, only noting that she would be returning to Georgetown University as a professor in the fall. And she states, it's been an honor of a lifetime to serve on the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System. I'm especially honored to have served during a critical time in achieving our dual mandate of bringing down prices and keeping a strong and resilient labor market, which they did a pretty good job. I'm not gonna lie. We're not in a depression. We're not in a dystopian future, so not bad. So that happened. My next question was, how many board members do they have? And it's only 7. You got Jerome Powell, which everybody knows, Philip Jefferson, the vice, Michelle Bowman, vice. You have Michael Barr, Lisa Cook, Adriana Kugler, who's gone, Christopher Waller. So now Adrian Kugler is now being replaced by Dr. Stephen Moran. And here's the great thing about Dr. Stephen Moran. If you want to know more about what his decisions are, where he's coming from, and his likening of the crypto market, there was a great interview that was just done recently by Anthony Pompliano on 26th of June. I linked that in the description that you can watch the whole thing. It's about 26 minutes. It's very fast, very interesting. But this is the big thing. 18th of August, 2023, I guess Stephen likes Bitcoin. As he replies to somebody, this from Green, Bitcoin fixes this. So this is great. We've got a Bitcoiner in the Federal Reserve, and hopefully he understands the importance of potentially cutting some rates at the next meeting. And we'll go from there. And lastly, before we get out of here and do a little Q&A, I heard to mention this, Trump just had a precedent for democratizing access to alternative assets for 401k investors. First of all, what's a 401k? If you're not from America, gotcha. I don't think this is global. So essentially, a 401ks are retirement accounts, and they're usually done, and it's the same thing with the Roth or traditional IRA, but a little bit differently, mostly for stocks. When you're working, you put that away, and that is pre-tax dollars. Let's say you make $1,000 a month, congratulations, and you put in like $100 in your 401k. You don't have to pay taxes on that. Everybody's happy. You do have to pay taxes when you withdraw at whatever age it is, 55, 59 and a half. There's special stipulations. If you want to withdraw early, if you want to take it out for like a loan for a business, up to $3,000. You can also actually do a withdrawal early if you had financial hardships. You can also do crossover to a Roth. It doesn't matter. 401ks are pretty good. And what they were allowed to have in it was the basics, stocks, equities, we're talking about here. But now you're going to be able to put in crypto. The order directs the Secretary of Labor to consult with the Secretary of the Treasury, SEC, and other federal regulators to determine whether parallel regulatory changes should be made at those agencies to give effect to the purpose of the order, which was to allow alternative investments into 401k. The order directs the SEC to facilitate access to alternative assets. That's interesting. To facilitate access, actually make it fast, make it good, make it safe, so we can onboard crypto into these 401ks. For participant-directed defined contribution retirement saving plans by revising applicable regulations and guidance. More than 90 million Americans participate in employer-sponsored defined contribution plans. Most of those are currently restricted from investing in alternative assets. Unlike, and this is a good one, unlike wealthy investors in retirement plans for government workers. Wealthy investors. Those are called accredited investors, and they get a lot to do as opposed to all the plebs out there. Just because they made a bunch of money, it means they can make more money. That's pretty much what it goes to. Alternative assets such as private equity, real estate, that's interesting, and digital assets, crypto, offer competitive returns and diversification benefits. And again, like we talked about, I think 401k, it's a big deal. You're looking at $12.9 trillion that is being sloshed around in the 401k TradFi industry, and that's great. Does that mean that we're going to get $13 trillion tomorrow? Obviously not. It's going to take some time. But I think the big thing with 401ks, and I worked at a couple different companies before I went to work for myself solely, is that as a reminder, a lot of companies, they do a 401k match. And again, if you're not from America, you don't know what a 401k is, it's fine. Essentially what it is every paycheck, some businesses, to lure in good talent or just retain good people, they'll say, hey, look, we're going to give you, if you put $1 in for your 401k, and you can pick the type of how aggressive you want to be, we're going to match you $1 for $1. How cool is that? If someone goes there and is like, great, guess what? I'm going to buy Bitcoin all the time. Okay, for every $1 you put in Bitcoin, we'll put $1 in ourselves. And you get $2, and you can put that into whatever asset you want. Bitcoin. Oh, you want Bitcoin? Yes, Bitcoin. $1 and $1, $100 and $100, 10,000 and 10. You know, you get what I'm saying here. So 401ks usually, not usually, but there's a lot of matching, and I could see this being a pretty big deal. Also, what's also great is that, and this has already come to light, is that you, at some point in different mortgage brokers, you can use the amount of your 401k as part of your assets to get verified for a mortgage. So wouldn't that be great if you actually have the 401k and say, hey, I have this thing over here, it's being matched over to this, and I got this, and I can afford a house. This could be a big thing. But we'll see. And that's it for today. So look, that was a lot of talking. I apologize. 21 minutes, it's a little bit too much. But that's it for today. So look, if you like today's video, even though it went pretty long, thumbs up, subscribe, all the good stuff. And now let's get into a little Q&A. Okay. Make it safe. What are they going to do? Place a CBDC condom on Bitcoin? If it was just that easy. I'll be 80% out by $8. I think we're talking about XRP. What is the price today of XRP? $3.32. Not too bad. $8 is a pretty good target. I can get with that. Let's see. Started early with company 401k, and now with crypto, it will make retirement much easier. Andy is 100% correct. Oh, you know what's great about a 401k? I forgot to talk about this. Is that, let's say Andy here makes $500,000 a year. Andy is either laughing or disgusted of how low I just said his salary was. Let's just say Andy makes $500,000 per year. That's a pretty high rate that you have to pay taxes on if you were going to do anything, as far as like, you know, you get paid, you're in that bracket of 32% or whatever else it is. It's a progressive tax here in the States. So let's say Andy says, okay, I'm going to put that into the 401k. It's pre-tax, so I don't get taxed on that dollar amount. I'm making $500,000 anyhow. Then when you retire and you hit a certain age and he's not making $500,000, let's say he's like, hey, I'm only withdrawing whatever's in my 401k, and a very slow withdrawal, I might add. I'm only going to take out like $10,000. Now it dropped from $500,000 per year of what you make to a very low amount, which puts you in a much lower tax bracket. And so you're like, well, I didn't pay taxes over there, but that's like $500,000. Again, it's like, you know, 23,000, 50,000, 80,000, 110,000 as it goes up progressively. So now Andy's like, I got to pay taxes at whatever the $10,000 rate is, not too much. That's the beauty of a 401k as you get older. Hopefully you make it to that age. That's a topic for like a longevity channel, not for my channel. Let's see. E. Halim says, forget about the OTC creating supply shock. He's correct. When people buy OTC, it doesn't usually move the market. Allowing individuals to invest their 401k directly on exchanges, what's going to push Bitcoin to $1 million? I never thought of it that way. Yeah, that could be a good point. That's a good one. Thanks, Robin team. You're welcome. We got a good team here. Custodia Bank CEO came along, slams XRP's centralized network and backwards tokenomics. Says institutions will never trust it. If it were going to take over, it would have already. Yeah, maybe. I'm not here to debate if XRP is the most awesome thing of all time and it's going to go to $589, or if it's just total trash. I don't really have that much skin in the game. That is for probably people who have big bags to discuss. I just don't. If it does make it, I mean, great. Let's see. I think I'm going to have separation anxiety when you take your hiatus in the bear market. I doubt it. Don't worry, I'll be back. There's a bear market around every corner. Andy, salary? I don't think Andy's going to tell us, which he shouldn't. Kraken is the OG. Yeah, you know, Kraken's been around since 2011. Amazing, right? It's been around a long time. Speaking of which, you know what I really liked about Kraken is they have the same thesis as Andreas Antonopoulos. Let me show you this. Andreas Antonopoulos had a pretty good quote I never forget. Treat all exchanges like a public bathroom. Go in, do your business, and get out ASAP. Meaning, just like we have in the rules, the 0% exchanges, don't leave things in exchanges. Put them into a cold storage device. So he said this, and then years later, Jesse Powell, former CEO of Kraken, says, please do not store crypto on any exchange. Warns the CEO of Kraken. You got to love that. Jesse was always a good guy. And I feel bad that he got sued by the SEC just for trying to do staking, which now apparently is not a big deal. I think if somebody got the shaft, it was Jesse Powell and Kraken having to deal with those maniacs over there at the SEC and Gary Gensler. But, you know, things move on. We are all the social risk indicators. Still feels a little lonely here. Yeah. I think a lot more people are coming into the ETF world. And I think it's just easier for them. And I think it's just safer for them, especially if you've got a lot of money laying around. You don't want to be, you know, let's say you live in like a McMansion somewhere, and people know you make money, and then they break in because they understand that you might have some Bitcoin. You know how easy it is to, you know, take a ledger device, pistol whip somebody, and, you know, get that access code. Not that I've done this. I'm just saying it's very easy if you're really able to think about it. Just look at California. But you know, with an ETF, to move things around, it goes to banks, cash is there, KYC, AML. It's a little bit easier to track, and I think people just want that. Hello, Snake. I can't wait to see my boss's face when I tell him I want to transfer my entire 401k to Bitcoin. Maybe your boss will be like, yeah, Carlos knows. I don't see Bitcoin ever being a payment currency because it's too valuable to spend. Speaking of which, it's a good segue. There is a convenience company store. It's mostly located on the East Coast of the United States. And the name is Sheetz. Bitcoin news. Let me find this. I want to ask you if this is a smart play by this company, because I'm not really getting it. But look at this. Somewhere. Aha. Sheetz, the popular convenience store chain with 750 plus locations, is now offering 50% off purchases paid with Bitcoin and crypto daily from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. My question is this: why give people 50% off of all goods and or services at your location? And people are like, well, so they can get Bitcoin, genius. But I mean, think about it, right? If you really want Bitcoin that bad, don't give people 50%. I mean, this is just me saying. Don't give people 50% off. You just say, okay, we're going to take a percentage every day of our profits and roll those into Bitcoin, put them on our balance sheet, which is working pretty well for some other companies, instead of giving them these discounts. Or maybe it has to do with some kind of legal regulation, because if they take that Bitcoin in as a payment, essentially becomes a said currency. I wonder if they're playing a long game of like saying, hey, this isn't, you know, we took this as a currency play, and we have this Bitcoin. It went up in value as currency sometimes does and fluctuates. We don't want to pay any capital gains. I don't know what it is, but I'm just curious why they did that when they could just say, hey, we're going to buy Bitcoin and not give people 50% off. Maybe it's a promotion. Maybe they saw what worked for, what is it, Steak and Shake or Steak and Bake, whatever that place is called, Steak and Shake, Shake and Steak, something like that. Sheetz convenience store. What can you buy at Sheetz convenience store? Sheetz. That does look good. All right, coffee, pizza, and finally I can get a job. Get high energy, join us. Great. You can pay fuel. Now that's a pretty good deal. 50 cents off fuel, and you get 50% off if you use Bitcoin. I would go there for sure. Kidding me? Huh. Anyhow, there's your answer. Interesting. What do you think of that? Is that a good idea or good for marketing promotions? I don't know. Bree says, what do you make of real estate markets going to SHI something? So many YouTubers screaming right now that it's 2008 all over again. I mean, there's been a couple of concerning data points, which takes a look at the amount of sellers versus buyers. Right now, we have double the sellers. We have too much inventory in certain states around the U.S. as opposed to enough buyers. Before, it was a little bit, it was swapped or mostly even. So when you have too much inventory, you have too much stuff, and then you got a bunch of sellers like, we don't want to buy that stuff. Then the buyers or the sellers, excuse me, they have to start lowering those prices, lowering, because they want to sell at some point. So then you get into this situation where like how low is low and how many people are underwater and how many people take a big loss. Not for sure. I can just tell you that as far as like the tourist industry, in Puerto Rico, where we have different Airbnbs, long-term and short-term rentals, things are fine over there. But I did see another report where tourism in Las Vegas is down between 11 and 20% year over year. That's a huge, 11% to 20%. That's massive. However, some people have notified me, because I used to live in Las Vegas, that the prices there are ridiculously high. And they went a little bit too much, and they're paying the price. So, Bree, well, just keep. We're gonna pull a Jerome Powell, and we'll just keep looking at that data, see what happens. But yeah, there's always something to be concerned about, right? Krantz says Kraken is the OG. Jesse Powell is also working for Mt. Gox. Wow, I didn't know that. For Mt. Gox when it went down, hence Kraken. That would make sense why it opened up so early. Quant is the secure layer of Web3, and XRP XLM is the internet of value. Rob doesn't know this, sadly, despite the documentation. Guilty as charged. Buy Bitcoin. Base is still better. And says Quant. Greetings from Florida. Cold storage is the goods. Buy your dream. Buyyourdream.net. Jesse is awesome. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know I know he's not the CEO anymore. I wonder if he's just the advisor or doing something else. Staking is still a big deal in California. All right. Staking or stalking. Staking's good, right? Essentially you get a nice yield off of the crypto. Stalking, not so good. Sorry, that was a long two-message question. Matt, here it is. Rob, in 2017, total 3 shows. The altcoin run go from November to January in 2020. Okay. Altcoins run, the altcoins run from November to January in 2021. In 2017, you had roughly the same thing. You know, really, there was a nice run up as altcoin season really exploded. When I got in, it was in November 2017. And I remember like in September, October, November, somewhere around there, things were really lighting up. Then December was crazy, January, and then it kind of tapered off. Shows the alt run was from January to May. Do you think this cycle will start further? There is people who are saying that. They're saying that this is a elongated cycle. like they've said before. And there was a really good podcast that I saw today. And it's from the Bitcoin historian. And it had on, let me see, who was this? Turpin. Michael Turpin. You know, Michael Turpin, he got into Bitcoin in 2013. And what he talks about, because it's an interesting show because they had Michael Turpin on, who's been around since 2013. And he's like, okay, the 4-year cycle isn't broken. Here's why. Then they had on Matt Hogan maybe a week or 2 weeks ago, where he says the 4-year cycle is broken. This is why. And it was a great back and forth. But what I liked about Turpin is that he said, I'm not a Bitcoin maximalist. I'm a Bitcoin preferentialist, meaning I like Bitcoin, but I also helped launch Ethereum, and I thought it did really well. And there's some other altcoins I think he agrees with. When he talks about this, he says the same thing. He's like, you know what? The 4-year cycles aren't broken. but we really could extend into January, February. I think that was it. I think he's just at January, actually. And he gave us specific reasons why. He talked a lot about charts. Check out that video. The YouTube channel, I was going to talk about this today, but then things got a little hectic. The podcast by Pete Rizzo, the Bitcoin historian. And why don't they have the YouTube channel there? It's just called Supply Shock, which I thought was kind of funny because everybody's been talking about supply shock since I got in, and there's never been a supply shock. But I mean, sure, it's a great podcast. So watch that video, and it gives you a little more insight into what you're thinking. I still think that we're probably going to have a big run-up. September 17th is when the Federal Reserve will meet. Federal Reserve will cut rates. We're going to get a lot of macro data after that. We're going to take a look at the tariffs, which went into effect August 1st, which the administration is very hyped about taking $120 billion or whatever it is. And I'm like, isn't that from the companies here in the United States? Is that really that great? Do we really want that? Although it does force these companies to really reevaluate, who are they getting their goods and services from or products. And maybe they should be trying to bring everything back in the United States, which is going to take years anyhow, but maybe they can reshore. This is beyond me some days. Because I know when I start talking about this and everybody gets political and then the whole show goes on the tubes. Anyhow, watch those two podcasts. That's the best way. Buy hard until 2029. Seth, I'm trying. I just got a nice little call from my bank today saying, hey, Mr. Wolf, did you know that you're low on your accounts? I'm like, thank you. I know it. So yeah, it even happens to me. Chris says, they've said extended cycles before, but this is the first time there might actually be the sustained inflows for it. Yeah, the argument is that we have more seasoned veterans and more of these institutions, which are smart money. And they know what they're getting into, and they were not going to sell, and they're going to let it run up and just let it ride. And I'm like, did you see how much BlackRock was selling in the ETF? Do you think that could do it? And then also, all these companies, they're becoming that, putting all their different cryptos in the balance sheet. I think altcoins will definitely have another winter, because those companies are like, hey, you know what? Guess what? Maybe Fartcoin wasn't a great idea. And they start selling like crazy. But I think, maybe Bitcoin could extend itself out. But again, watch that one with Turpin, and he explains why he thinks there'll still be a little winter. Okay. Virtual Bacon had a great video yesterday on the 4-year cycle. I believe he also thinks it's dead as well. A lot of people think it's dead. It's a funny thing. I remember last cycle, people saying it was dead. And they were talking about elongated cycles, and we got countries. El Salvador is here, and they told the IMF to stick it. And then we got MicroStrategy and all these companies. And Sam Bankman-Fried is like, he's like a savant, and he'll make everything work. And yeah, those are good times. And then it all collapsed. So, sure, we'll see. The chosen ones will escape the 4-year cycles, and the rest will, spinning in the cycle until it gets picked up by a utility. I always thought that once we found a use case and a real utility for things, that things would really take off, especially real world utility. But I see what's happening, and here's a prime example. I switched my phone service to World Mobile. And it's a great service. It's got unlimited call, text, and data, 30 gigs priority high-speed data, 5 million SIM swap insurance. You get to use staking, which you can pay for your bill. VPN on all the phones. Its coverage is 99.9% in the United States. That's a lot of coverage in the US. There's a lot of dead zones, but not for World Mobile. And the price is reasonable, $59 to $85, depending on what you want to do. And what's the price of World Mobile? I think it's ranked like 438 or something like that. And I think it went down. And I'm like, that's weird, because that's real utility. You actually do something with it. It's a good company, it's good people, and they know what they're doing. Sometimes I just kind of think that this is all speculation. Okay. Bitcoin at 30K, says Muhammad. Bitcoin at 30K in the next bear market. What are your thoughts, Rob? My thoughts are this. Bitcoin has never gone below the price of the presidential election. Here's what I'm talking about. So first of all, in 2013 to 2014, the drawdown was 87 or 86%, 87%. The drawdown from 2017 to 2018 was 85 to 86%, somewhere around there. 85%, I believe it was. And the drawdown from 2021 to 2022 was 77%. So there was a fall off of the drawdown from the all-time highs to the lows of the cycle, but there still was that. And 77% seems pretty ridiculous, right? So I would say that, let me see if I can find it. Presidential, and here it is. It's never fallen below these prices. Once it hits these prices, it doesn't go below it. November 6, 2012, it hit 10 bucks, never went below that. Because we got, the markets don't like ambiguity. They want to know who's in charge and how much it's going to do and where things are going to go. So in 2012, which is kind of early days, let's be honest, did never drop below 10 bucks. November 8, 2016, it went to $707, never dropped below that. That was Trump's first term. November 4th, 2020, the election day, it never dropped below 14,133. It did get close at 17,782, somewhere around there. And then the last election, November 5th, 2024, was 69,432. So I don't see us dropping below that unless nuclear war breaks out. But I think we got more to worry about it. Nuclear war breaks out. But yeah, I can see 70,000, which means we could go, if it's a 50%, I mean, 140, 150, or like Turpin talks about, he thinks it's going to go to around 190,000 for this cycle, and then it'll pull back roughly 50 to 60%. We'll see. Thank you. That's really why I come here. Beard talk. How would that 401k plan work during the bear cycle? I wonder if it will have some flexibility to move stuff around. Well, just like your Roth IRA, in a Roth IRA, which is that's post-tax. So you get your salary, your paycheck, whatever you get, you pay the taxes on that. Then you put that into assets, into your Roth IRA. Then when you take them out, there's no capital gains tax. That's a Roth. Traditional is a little different. But for this one, my 401k, as I recall, correct me in the comment section, you could trade within your 401k for these different equities that you had, move things around. So I think that if you use something, let's see, treasuries, $401k. Yeah. Fidelity clients can buy U.S. Treasury securities on their accounts, including T-bills and IRAs. Well, that's in a rollover. Yeah, I guess you can. So if you wanted to be a little bit safer, I mean, it's very boring, but T-bills, stuff like that. If you wanted to go that route, we'll see. And also, there's one more thing that's a little bit concerning. There was a question that we just had about how people are screaming that it's 2008 for the real estate industry. And we talked about some examples, but there's another example that I'm kind of concerned with as far as like talking about the big R word. Which is recession. And I think that gold hit its all-time high today. I think it dropped quite a bit. Let's see. So usually when gold price goes up extremely high, you start to get people who are saying, well, it's a store of value, and we're doing that because the recession's coming. down 0.36 ounce gram penny tail. To the hour. Oh, yeah. Well, they retraced, but wow. 3,408. Congratulations, gold holders. Something a little bit concerning. Every time I see prices in spot gold go up, I'm always worried that, well, maybe something are just going to have that. Ooh. Tyndale says, I feel I've grown out of Bitcoin. Now it's basically the beta test. The thing is, like, when I first got in, I thought Bitcoin, I'm like, yeah, it's everybody gets into it, safe. And then I got out of that, did Ethereum, and did a bunch of altcoins, 2021, even more altcoins. And now you kind of come, you're like boomerang back to Bitcoin because it's like a safer play. And some of the OGs will say, like, yeah, I'm into altcoins, but the only reason I'm into altcoins is so I can run those prices up, sell them, because that's cash flow, and put them right into Bitcoin for the next one. I was like, not a bad idea. Okay. I missed a lot of questions, sorry. Oh yeah, a big tariff on gold bars. I want to say it's an additional 10% for any gold bars being imported in the US. Not great. You know what there's no tariffs on? Bitcoin. So this cycle will go on until the top of Rob's head turns white. That's not far away. That Kung Fu guy. Recommendations for Puerto Rico areas to stay and visit. Yeah, there's depends on what you want to do. If you want to be like, if you're more like a surfer, lazy surfer town, like I would pick Rincon. It's very quiet and nice over there. If you want to do more of the touristy stuff, you want to do like deep sea fishing and wind sailing and beach time and have beer and pretty good food, reasonable food, we'll say. San Juan over by Ocean Park is a great place, great place. And then I can recommend a restaurant. One of the best restaurants I like over there is called Bottles over in Guaynabo. Fantastic food. And the plates are like this big. The steaks are like that fat. It's awesome. And yeah, I mean, that's what I'd recommend. San Juan. Does it ever snow in Puerto Rico? No, thank God. Dancing? Any place. Go to the 7-Eleven, people are dancing. How does the IRS track DEXs? Not sure, but I do have to do a video on that very quickly. There is a new IRS stipulation, which is going to force every single person to report their taxes. And I want everybody to get on board with this earlier than later. I work with CoinLedger, and they're the ones that, it's a tax software. I use them for 4 years now, and they're great. And they're offering a free portfolio tracker. And what's great about the portfolio tracker is you can track your portfolio. You can see unrealized gains and losses, break it down to a granular level, and take a look at, okay, this is good, this is good. But it tracks everything for you, and it's only a read-only. So you just put in your public address, and that's pretty much it. So I want everybody to get on board with that. So when tax time comes, you just flip a button and say, give me my tax reports. And then you can send it off to your CPA, or you can send it off to whatever tax service software that you have. So as far as like tracking DEXs, I thought they were pushing a law through that made DEXs have to self-report. Again, it's a little ambiguous right now. But I always report because I am deathly afraid of the IRS. That's what it is. Rob, thoughts on Maple Finance and the SERP token? No thoughts on that one. I'm sure it'll do great, though. I don't know. I've only seen it in passing. I drink alone and dance alone. Sad, really. Hey, the more you hang around people, the more you realize that it's just better to be alone and maybe with your dog. Some days. Wayne says, if this is the bull run for XRP, I'm not impressed at all. I don't blame you. You're welcome, Kung Fu. But I never hear about quant from normie channels. I don't even know. I don't even follow it, honestly. Huh. All right. I think that's it. I think, did I answer everybody? Alone, with a green pool. Just like this one right here. All right, everybody, that's it for today. So look, if you like today's video, thumbs up, subscribe, all that great stuff. Tomorrow's Friday. We'll probably do an earlier one tomorrow. I got some things going on. So that's it for tonight. Thanks so much, everybody. I'll see you guys on the next one.